Hello, all. My name is Nilesh Shukla. Here at NLP Summit, I'm going to present all our investigations while adopting LLMs and generative AI in our use cases. And as we delve into this, we'll explore opportunities, challenges, and probably how should we proceed for future in generative AI in adopting for any financial use cases. So without further ado, let's get started. Uh, this year, 2023, has revolutionized artificial intelligence, right? From 2022, I guess say, it's from November 2022, we have seen a growth in generative AI and then chatter around it. If you see on top, Gartner's hype cycle, generative AI is on top. And if you read any consulting report, everybody's saying that any CFO, any financial sector organization, or in general, anyone has to now adopt to generative AI. Right? But obviously, given a financial industry, there could be certain challenges, and then we will go through these in this presentation. Right? So let's first talk about what is generative AI in large language models. Generally, AI models can be classified into two categories. One is discriminative AI and another is generative AI. So discriminative AI is where you're putting things into classes, category and all. And when it comes to generative AI, it's generating content. And when it generates content, it could be totally new content, right? It is not just copied from a previous known information. They can generate entirely new content based on your requirements and recommendations. And essentially, they are deep learning based models, which we can say get more adoption when it converted into large language models. Uh, since if you see the journey on the right, it has been started in from 2019, right? So there were like Bloom coming in, GPT coming in, then Google releasing Lambda and all. But this is the last year when OpenAI released ChatGPT. Everybody gets very hyped around it, and then saw immensely accurate and then a great assistant who can write emails for them and then probably solve simple math problems for them, and then with that and then it's very low code thing, right? You don't need to do a lot of analysis, a lot of coding. You just use certain API and then services and get really great results, right? So what is behind this generative AI is obviously the large language models, right, which is based on obviously the transformers. Then there's a paper came in like why Google is attention all you need, and then transformers came into picture. And then with evolution of this language models, right, the LLMs came into play, which can do any task, right? You don't need different model now for summarization or text extraction or anything, right? Entity extraction or Q&A. One model, LLM, right, it can serve all these purposes, and that's why this is a really hype. And then it's also, we can call them in foundation models because now they can work across domains, across use cases. But there are certain challenges, right? And when we try to adopt them in finance, obviously, still it's evolving. It's not that it's doing really great, but it's still evolving. And a lot of benchmark are getting done only in, let's say, English literature, mathematical reasoning, or maybe general knowledge. But there's we do not find any benchmark for this financial use cases, right? And also obviously they can solve Q&A, reasoning, summarization, but can they solve the financial summarization, financial reasoning, or financial Q&A, right? There's no study around that till now. Obviously what we have seen in our investigation till now is the general knowledge or the common knowledge that LLMs have might not work well, and then you have to custom train them to get the knowledge specific to your use case or your field. And custom training is still at large is a problematic area for LLMs due to obviously the need of resources that it needs to train, and then obviously not everybody is very open about what their LLM are doing, right? At finance, we also need to see take care of regulatory compliances, the ethical concerns of AI, and then trustworthiness, and then we have to build a responsible AI framework around it. We have seen also in many cases in the past, like if you see a report of CNN that some lawyer have used ChatGPT to build certain cases, and then what it the facts that it generated was all hallucinated, right? In our industry, also in the finance, it's a very fact-based thing, right? You cannot, there's no chance of hallucination. And with all these things at LLMs early stage, we need, if even if we deploy application with LLMs, we need to involve human, and it might be a increased human involvement. And obviously, if you see in the last few months, there are cases against OpenAI and all that. Since we have taken all the data from internet for training a model, did you take a permission? What are the IP rights or the copyrights issues? Obviously the cost also is too high as of now in terms of the size of the models that you have to load, and then GPU memory. If you, even if you say that you have to take going to use API, so cost per request is very high, right? So that also opens opportunity where we should democratize LLMs. There could be more vendors, open source contributions. There are happening, but are they accurate? Are they able to solve our problems or not, right? So let's go into certain use cases. So I have taken certain use cases where we have tried on public data sets, which I can share. So these are cases like financial summarization. So financial summarization is like any other summarization task. Only thing is that you're getting probably a financial news, a financial report, right? A lengthy financial report to summarize so that you can understand how that company is performing. Now, what is the challenge with financial summarization is that first of all, it's lengthy. It has a mix of information, which could be charts, which could be table, which could be text and figures, and then probably whole numbers around there. There's no fixed structure, and then if you try to summarize it, it might not work well. So this task, which I'll say financial narrative summarization, which is summarizing the financial report, can be broken into two parts. One is narrative section classification, and then is narrative section summarization. Once we identify the narrative sections, so when we try to attempt narrative section classification, we directly ask ChatGPT, okay, do you know what is narrative section classification? And it gives really great results, right? That okay, and they are good in that sense, okay, that generally narrative sections are chairman statements or chief executives review and all, so that you get a high level feeling, okay, uh, to what is the company is doing or what is written in the report, right? So these are called narrative sections. But when we use that data set, right, financial narrative data set, and then we ask, okay, GPT to do narrative section classification based on its own memory, its own knowledge. So that F1 was 0.46, right? Uh, which was quite low. Then we thought, okay, let's give it example. So we tried few short example prompting. There's obviously the prompting where you can tell or give instructions to any LLM, and then probably give certain examples, which is called few shot prompting. And then with that, we see an increase in 0.62, right? But still, it's not reaching out to benchmark that we have published last year as part of dim sum paper, 0.72. Similarly, when we go to narrative section summarization, it's not able to do summarization in a form which possibly required by that data set, or maybe financial summarization, and it is underperforming, right? Another thing that we tried, okay, that we directly asked this GPT, okay, this is a report. Can you please summarize from narrative sections, right? So when we give that simple instruction, right, without any guidance and all, it was giving F1 0.05, which is too very low. So what we did is that in our pipeline that we have built in the DIMSum last year, we plugged in LLM at several places so that LLM knows what it has to do and step by step, right? With that, it increased to 0.36. So that means for this task, LLMs needs guidance and probably a hybrid approach will be useful. Next task is financial causality. So causality is a task where we try to identify why certain event has happened, right? What is the cause for that? And due to that, what is the possible effect, right? And in mathematical term, you can say that how x affects y or y affects x, and then that is a known learning known task, and that has been attempted by previously by various models, and they are doing good, right? So if you see that I take an example, for example, take on the right side, Zhao found himself indebted 60 million after losing 9,000 BTC, right? So cause was that Joel lost 9,000 BTC, and that's why he got indebted of 60 million yuan, right? So now LLM has to give read this text and then extract cause and effect separately. And so far, I have put the sources also. Many studies have shown that LLMs, without giving any specific knowledge or instruction, able to do a really good job on this, right? So based on their own knowledge, LMs can perform this, and our LM pipeline also achieved significantly f1 0.92, right? We cannot disclose a lot of information here because it's a work in a progress and it's a research paper we are publishing. But for these cases in general, what we see that LLMs are recommended, you can directly use them, and then without any specific information to be trained upon. They don't need a lot of training, right? Next use case comes is Q&A and reasoning, right? So Q&A is generally question answering. So question answering is, okay, like for example, what is the capital of United States of America, and then you're giving an answer, right? Or what is the temperature outside? So based on information, a Q&A answer can be given. Reasoning is more on top of that. Let's say if I ask a question, for example, how's the weather outside, and it's saying that okay, it's good, right? Then why it is good? So that's comes the reasoning, right? If you're answering certain things, what is the rationale behind it? What is your reasoning? It could be a reasoning comprehension also, right? Where you are given a reasoning comprehension, you have to answer certain things, and then probably you answer it, and then you have to justify also why did you answer that. So that's what they call Q&A and reasoning, right? So far LLMs have been evaluated and studies has been done, and the framework has been around a mathematical reasoning where given a mathematical equation or mathematical problems. For example, what is the cost of 11 apples if the cost of one apple is this, right? So based on that, we have built a lot of framework, and then LMs are doing good. And then on top of that, we have built like chain of thought framework where you see that they give the examples and then how to calculate this. So it's working well. Similarly, it is also being used and then explored the common sense reasoning. For example, we know that if there's rain, then obviously the road will be slippery. So that common sense and or you can say a general knowledge reasoning is also embedded into LLMs, and then we are trying out that. Another kind of reasoning is called symbolic reasoning, where put up certain rules and logics, and for that you define the human readable information, and then based on that artificial intelligence take a decision, and then LLMs are also being evaluated on that. What if financial Q&A and reasoning, right? So financial Q&A, let's say it's a given report. Let's say if you identify what is the, let's say what is the next change in the tax position. So now LM or any artificial intelligence has to read that report. The information could be available in different information sources. It could be part of table, it could be part of figure, it could be part of chart, it could be part of text, and then based on that it has to figure out, okay, how should I answer this, right? Second kind of questions could be very subjective, which needs your domain knowledge, and then based of it is not directly written as factual, or that information is not there, and then you have to derive that information. For example, the question is that does this report contain the comparison with competitors? That means LLM has to go through the report and figure out what are the competitors, right? Who are the competitor for this company? Did we mention the performance of that? And then if it is mentioned, then it is really yes, this is there. And then if it is mentioned, then probably the next question could be that okay, how it is performing. Then the LM has to compare that performance, maybe these numbers or something like. So there are a lot of tasks happening in this, right? There's no straight thing, and it varies depending upon different needs and then different reports, different use cases. The Q&A varies, right? There's no fixed formula for that, and then obviously it's a very subjective, and then domain knowledge is required, right? So for example, last question is that even if you do all the analysis, should we consider it for trade, right? So till date, based on all our analysis and going through all the research papers, all the academics, we have seen that still the ability to solve the exponential reasoning LLM, we do not find a significant uh, information around it, right? That it can perform well in financial way. And when we tried in our use cases, we also didn't find it doing really well. So LLMs cannot be directly used in financial QA and reasoning, and we need to do a careful investigation and then probably try certain things. Maybe we need to build a new framework or certain other aspects around LLMs, but LLMs cannot be directly applied to this use case. So with this, I think all the use cases that I wanted to cover is covered, and now I open this floor for Q&A. Thank you everyone for hearing this. Okay, thank you. Bye.